7 secrets from your subconscious mind in relation to your vision, your dreams, your aspiration, whatever you desire to bring forth. When I started on this journey, I began working with the subconscious mind for the concept of autosuggestion, which I had learned from Think and Grow Rich. Through working with the concept of autosuggestion, I started to realize that there was many aspects within myself that I did not understand, but was being revealed to me in the experiences that I was having day to day. In other words, I aimed to create a certain result, but for whatever the reason, I couldn't get myself to create the result, either reflected in my behaviors, my inability to do the things that I know I have to do, also outer world circumstances which appeared to be obstacles. Now, upon reflection and realization of deeper concepts that I found within my subconscious realm, I recognized that these were elements within myself that externalized and was reaffirmed, which continued to externalize again and again. Thus, I decided to go deeper into the realm of the subconscious and work with it to bring forth higher degrees of success in different areas of life. Through the journey of consulting, which was happening after my IT business was built up to 50 clients in 2013 and I transitioned away from it, I realized that there was many entrepreneurs, business owners that knew exactly what they had to do. They were attending seminars, they were buying the books, they were taking the programs, and they knew exactly what they had to do. But for whatever the reason, they couldn't get themselves to do it. Or for whatever the reason, they could not have the experience that they wanted to see realized that was related to the vision. In other words, the unseen reality of the vision did not experience in the seen reality or the outer world. Now, upon reflection of this, I realized that much of what was governing us or expressing through us was our subconscious programming, our beliefs, our assumptions, the way we look at reality, the ideas about ourselves in relation to the outer world, otherwise known as the screen of space, the five-sensory world, that was determining the ability to leverage, work with, or use the information that is so abundantly available to create success. So I started getting deeper into the discussions on the subconscious realm, and in my own experience, go deeper into my own subconscious mind to realize certain aspects of the subconscious in contribution and to share related to anyone who wants to receive this information to bring forth what they desire. And today I want to share with you 7 aspects. Number 1, future is also experienced by habitual thinking and visual imagery. The subconscious mind reproduces these mental impressions and acceptances. So, the habitual thinking and the visual imagery that we hold in our mind right now represents itself as future outcomes. Should we choose to, or should we dwell on those particular habitual thinking and visual imagery, imagination-based experiences? That is what causes the impression and the acceptance within, otherwise known as the "it is done." The feeling of the wish fulfilled, as Neville puts it, it is done. Now, when we're reflecting upon our vision, that which we want to see brought forth, we want to recognize that when we affirm it, that it is done, and then we are on the journey, rearranging internally our mind as well as rearranging the screen of space through us and from us, which is that particular state of mind that we associated with, which was the ideal of the outcome. Now, that stated, the impression and the acceptances of what is experienced on the journey as well can create what we call stress, convolution, frustration, or denial of the core assumption that which we desire to see brought forth will be brought forth. Now, we have the ability to change this. I call this purification of the mind. However, this is revealed via our subconscious. Habitual thinking and visual imagery. In other words, as Neville Goddard puts it, What are we imagining? What are we imagining each day? What we are imagining each day can be in the process of becoming. So we want to choose habitual thinking and visual imagery that is in alignment with how we want to experience the journey to the realization. It is not in denial of the realization, but however, if you choose to accept certain information from the outer world as interpretation, as denial of the outcome, then you will experience it to be so. If you choose to see the information that is presented to you on the screen of space, the five-sensory world, any five-sensory information, and interpret it as contributing to what you desire to bring forth in some shape or form, and you find the answers within how so via the subconscious inner voice conversations and intuition, then you affirm that information and further create it as the experiences on what Neville Goddard refers to as the bridge of incidents, or the journey to the destination. Remember, the subconscious mind expresses on the screen of space what is accepted as it is done. Screen of space, the outer world. Now, when we refer to the outer world as the screen of space, we are one with it. It is one with us. So we take apart this concept in our mind. We have a concept called conscious, subconscious, superconscious, inner world, outer world, so we can understand and put it back together to realize that it is what we are imagining. Habitual thinking and visual imagery that is creating our experiences, five sensory experiences in what we would call the outer world or screen of space. Based on it is done, both affirmative or what we would call negative or disempowering information. Through certain subconscious externalizations, we rise up in attitude of mind into full acceptance of your desired outcome. This is both the mind and the screen of space rearranging. So you may find yourself experiencing a certain element in the outer world, a person, circumstance, information, that appears to challenge the assumption that you have. And you might see it as contrarian and actually fighting against the assumption that you have. That which you desire to bring forth and how your plan that is found within of how you want to bring it forth. Now, with that particular assumption that you have in relation to whatever shows up, we want to realize that whatever shows up is actually contributing. And it is experienced as what we call leveling up, which is essentially affirming. If something shows up and you feel you're not good enough to receive that particular opportunity, or that particular recognition, or that particular compliment, we have to remember that those elements are externalizations of our subconscious and also revelations of our habitual thinking and visual imagery as a result of experiencing. Number 2, prior to consuming information, allow your desire to fuel your intent and externalize it as the answer to what you are looking for. So you have questions about your journey. What about this? What about that? What does this mean? What does that mean? The answers are found within. Or the answers can be found through the externalization of your own consciousness through people, information, circumstance, or environment. However, the desire that you want to see brought forth can also be used as what we call fuel to your intent to soothe your mind that it is already done and it will be brought forth, and so you would like some answers. So we ask for the answers within, and then we show up anywhere. Now you could do this anywhere. Any kind of information will reveal to you the answer. Once you have a harmonious relationship between your conscious, subconscious, and superconscious aspects of yourself. And through the building of the relationship, which is on the journey, through bringing forth your desires and bringing forth your desires again and again and again, and understanding the cause and effect relationship, effect in the outer world and cause within, you will start to be able to know how the information that is presented to you, whether it's through books or whatever someone's saying, is actually revealing to you the answer that you're looking for, even if it is not necessarily how you want the answer to be delivered to you. Think about the experience between Neville Goddard and his mentor Abdullah. Neville Goddard gave him the idea of what he wanted to experience, And then he started to show up to Abdullah and mention that he's not there yet. And Abdullah would not hear anything from that. He would not accept that Neville would accept the five senses as denial. And by not accepting and encouraging those aspects, by not playing the theater, as I like to call it, he did not affirm that his desire was not going to be brought forth, but rather that was actually how he was contributing to bring forth that particular desire that he had. Now, you'll see this when you study a book and you apply the information and you produce results with the information, whatever the business or personal development book, whatever it is that you're learning. And then you come back to the book starts to look a little different. Certain information that was always there now all of a sudden stands out to you, or you interpret it from a different perspective. Now, with certain kinds of books, you can revisit those books again and again and again, such as Power of the Subconscious Mind, Think and Grow Rich, and other kinds of business books that I refer to on a regular basis. Some books are written with such depths of understanding based on who had articulated that information, that the ability to understand that information is reflected from our own desire within and the questions within and the faith and the knowingness that we will receive the answer through that information. And by the way, it doesn't necessarily have to be through information or people. It can be found in the world within. Actually, that information and people are externalizations of the consciousness within. Know that you are right now at the highest level of realization of true self, and thus it will be revealed how so. So everything of how the subconscious mind is revealed, as far as understanding goes, is found in the eternal now. When we're so associated with a certain way of thinking that are principles and suggestions that we had learned through our experiences growing up, but are a result of a certain paradigm, we might find ourselves believing that we are not already what we desire to be right now. The very affirmation that it is done and that everything that is happening right now is in harmony, in relation, reveals how so through your inner voice conversation, reflection based on the externalizations of what is happening right now. It's an individualized experience. I call this building a relationship with your subconscious. Number 3, through cause and effect reflection, notice how the screen of space reflects the exact attitude of mind and assumption within. Attitude of mind and assumption within will allow us to look at the screen of space and really understand the information for what it really is, rather than past assumptions and disempowering attitudes of mind that we still subconsciously identify with. If you identify any of this subconscious attitudes of mind and assumptions within, which appears to create smoke screens, causing you to interpret the five sensory data from perspectives that you know is disempowering to yourself and the screen of space in relation to your vision, then you have the power to note that information and receive within the accurate assumptions and beliefs through inner voice conversation, and further affirm that information through subconscious mind audios, self-talk, revision, or affirmative environments. Here's another aspect going deeper into it. There's no time or space limitations to the subconscious mind. You'll notice this when you create success. Maybe in the earlier stages, it takes longer to get to your end result. Then, as you go through the journey of creating success again and again and again, you'll find that it gets easier, faster, and more joyous. So you raise the bar, so to speak. Certain desires that challenge you so that you can further purify your mind, release disempowering programming further, and transcend the limitations of time and space. However, there are beliefs and assumptions about time and space that we can transcend. And those beliefs and assumptions about time and space are revealed through our inner conversations or our imagery or our habitual thinking, visual imagery regarding our particular experiences, what we desire to create, and whether it'll be brought forth. For example, if the goal is to create entrepreneurial success, you might assume that it's going to take a certain amount of time because you've learned it from other people. What you may find as you affirm that way of creating success was based on a certain amount of information that may be true for others, but there's a potentiality that I can transcend past that. What you'll find is ideas, hunches, and inspirations will be received within via your inner voice conversation, subconscious expressions, as I call them, hunches and inspirations, signs and synchronicities, which we're going to talk about next, symbolic interpretation, expressions in the outer world. These elements will be received within to show you how to transcend those suggestions from the outer world that may be limiting for you, and you know if they are or if they're not. One does not have to have a deep understanding of their subconscious mind and the subconscious realm. Certainly when I started this journey and working with this information through autosuggestion, I just followed the steps in Think and Grow Rich. And through the journey, I realized that I wanted to know more about this. So when I was building my IT business from 2009 to 2013, I went deeper into the study. And then after, when I created my channel in 2013, and I started doing business consulting on the side and sharing this information through book discussions, I started to get more questions about the subconscious mind. So I went to further understand and work on it by looking at my particular experiences in all areas of my life and articulating and expressing it, and then finding that I had deeper realizations about what was going on in the subconscious world within. Now, what I realized is that a person does not need to know all these things. Certainly I like to share it because maybe you are experiencing some of these things, so they can help you on your journey to allow you to understand what you're experiencing. Which brings me to my next element. So I broke this down into a few sections. First section is the screen of space, which is the five sensory world. Now let's talk about the world within, symbolic interpretation. What we're doing is we're symbolically interpreting reality. We're symbolically interpreting it. So whatever shows up on the journey, five sensory data, we have the ability to interpret it from related to and contributing to or empowering, or on the flip side, it's denying the assumption, it's stress, it's frustration, based on certain kinds of experiences that we're having and the symbolic interpretation of those elements within, which represent perspectives, archetypes, and certain elements which you could get into if you would like to. The work of Carl Jung really helps, and I studied some of his work, helped me understand it further. But all of those are conceptual models to help understand, like I'm sharing with you here, that we are essentially interpreting this world symbolically. And it's the rigidity, the biases that we have to certain information when it's presented in the outer world, five sensory data, that bind us into certain states of mind that we want to release from. Remember, we have infinite states of mind, and we have an ability to go into our imagination, and that our imagination can create identities, yes. And many of us have identified with our identity, and that's fine. If you choose to identify with the identity or not, it's really up to you. But we could release from that if you want to, and it may be required because this is something that's talked a lot about in the personal development space. I refer a lot to the Robert Dilts model. On the top, you got vision, then you got identity, then you got values and beliefs, then you've got capabilities, behaviors, and environments. The environments, the capabilities, the behaviors, and the values and beliefs are a representation of the identity. And we adopt certain identities, we assume certain identities, and then we identify with the identity. So as going back to my earlier example that I had discovered through business consulting, when entrepreneurs or business owners had a certain identity, self-image, about who they are and their relation to the outer world, when they would consume certain information that was supposed to help them on the journey, what they found, they weren't able to integrate that information because it didn't fit into their identity. They didn't realize that they actually were transcendent to the identity, that in their imagination, they can transcend the identity by choosing the exact outcome that they desire, affirm it as done, and then from there allow the outer world rearranging to occur while allowing the internal mind to rearrange to mirror it in external reality. Now, they interpreted the information as rigid, very dogmatic, structured information. They had to do it a certain way. It was almost like they thought they had to follow the business or personal development information in the exact way it was presented to them, even though it may not be the pathway or in harmony with the way that they are subconsciously going to bring it forth. And there was a lot of inner resistance. So thus I started to get into the subconscious mind stuff and teaching it and talking about it, because then I found, as I shared it through my consulting practice and working with entrepreneurs, they started to understand. And when we reflect on the Robert Dilts model, we have the ability to choose any identity via our imagination and then see how it is so. The person then goes and releases the symbolic interpretation to five sensory data, a little bit by little bit on their journey, or sometimes dramatically, to then bring themselves into a certain state of mind where A, they believe it's possible, and B, they're able to interpret five sensory data accurately in relation to the identity that they assume, the state of mind that they assume, as well as whatever shows up on the journey as rearranging the mind within, which is expressed through also behaviors, environments, circumstances, capabilities, to reflect accordingly, and also outer world circumstance changing in ways that they can't consciously know about, but the subconscious knows. Number 4, many symbols are individualized and thus have different meanings. The interpretation can be found via inner dialogue. So if it makes sense to you, many symbols are individualized and thus have a different meaning. The interpretation can be found via inner dialogue, so it makes sense to you. This further rearranges the mind. So whatever information that is presented through people, environment, circumstance, and really information that you're learning from the outer world can be interpreted from within via your inner dialogue and what you are imagining. If you want the journey to be as joyous as the destination, to be in harmony and in contribution. For example, if a circumstance doesn't go your way on the journey, you would say, well, it may not appear to go my way, but I have the ability to, if I want to, discover how it's going my way. And you can talk to others or find it within, which is why I recommend creating a mastermind, working with others in the spirit of harmony, to interpret the information in a way that is in harmony with the mastermind and your vision. Or you could find it within via your inner voice conversation. You'll look at the circumstance and you'll see, oh, wait, if I look at it from a different perspective, it's an opportunity. Number 5, we have the ability to transcend the knowledge taught through the five sensory world. The five sensory world has valuable information that we can learn and work with as far as capabilities and skills go and understanding of these elements. However, certain information needs to be transcended so that we could bring forth even more innovation if you're in the entrepreneurial space, or to find different ways to produce success that may not be discovered by others, but is revealed in your world within. Now, there's many different books and trainings, and I did 2 lengthy discussions on Jay Abraham's books, Mr. X, as well as Getting Everything You Can Out of All You've Got, on looking at your business from many, many different perspectives to stimulate your mind, experience, as well as different perspectives. Now, you have the ability to be inspired by that information, should you choose to go there. So one of the ways to transcend the knowledge that is received via the five sensory world is to integrate it and transcend it. Understand how it's relevant, how it's not relevant, where does it fit, what elements don't fit, how doesn't it fit based on your current circumstance, your goal, your vision, who you are within, and make the changes accordingly. And from there, you'll have a greater level of peace. You won't find yourself binding or polarizing to that information in a way where you see it as denial of your assumption or stress and frustration. We make consistent progress on our journey, and forward-moving experience reveals the new affirmations as symbols. So we're interpreting reality as symbolic. This is one paradigm that can be very useful. Everything has meaning. The meaning is in relation and in harmony to your goal and your vision. You can discover how so. You first have to believe it's possible, and then you work with some of your desire via your intent to find the answers, and you find out how so, both through yourself, or you could find it through others or information. However, always remember that you are making constant progress on your journey, and everything is forward moving. So you don't create the illusion or identify with the illusion that you're stuck and you're not making any progress. Because if we imagine, or our habitual thinking is that we're stuck, and ended a discussion on releasing from stagnation, which there are many, you would say, outer world tools or experiences or inner world mental models or conceptual ideas of releasing from the state of mind called stagnation, whatever works for you. For me, it's just, what's the next thing I have to do, knowing that whatever it is that I do is in contribution to my vision. And I just do it, whatever it is. And then I get back into the flow and then eventually autotelic. Watch the video I did on autotelic. I'll put a link in the description. Because we are interpreting the world based on symbolic interpretation from the world within, in relation to who we are and our relation to the people, environment, circumstance, and information, to bring it into alignment with true beliefs and assumptions within that are in harmony with our vision, we may consider not talking about your associations between your inner and outer world in relation to your vision. The reason why is if you have doubts about these experiences that you're having and the cross-reference between your inner and outer, even though it makes so much sense to you, but you doubt that others are going to think you're crazy or you don't know what you're talking about, if you share that information with them, the doubt may externalize and you may believe what they're saying, but they are an externalization of the consciousness within, which is the doubt within. What I find is I may be inspired to talk or share certain information through creative expression or conversations or connecting with others. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. None of that is relevant to you bringing forth what you desire. It can be part of the journey if you would like, but keep that into consideration. We want to transcend the knowledge to the five sensory world. The five sensory world knowledge is valuable, but we want to be able to discern what is related and what is in harmony with your goal and your vision. For example, in the entrepreneurial space, we say many people don't get success. That's because they're studying the information presented in a certain way, or they're interpreting it again within themselves from their identity and an assumption within that they are not going to be able to, and it's a subconscious assumption, create success. Now, they might not be aware of this. And then there are also other factors, but however, we want to keep this into consideration. We want to allow ourselves to transcend the knowledge taught through the five sensory world. What I found is that when I started my IT business in 2009, and when I finally grew it up to 50 clients in 2013, what I was taught from the books and trainings were inspirational, but the real way that it actually worked was in a unique methodology and system, so to speak, that I discovered within myself, which may be inspired by others and was a hybrid of what I learned, but so much of it was unique distinction that I found through experience and as a result of cause and effect reflection. Realizing that everything was contributing to my goal and my journey, and I had the ability to interpret whatever was showing up as actually contributing to reveal the destination. Number 6, the reaffirmation of symbolic signs / synchronicities, five sensory data, fills up the consciousness to reflect as people, circumstance, and information that reflect. So the world within is being expressed to externalize as the screen of space. Whatever shows up, if we see it as denial of the assumption, then we can further affirm that in our subconscious mind and thus recreate those elements in our experience and our journey. Those elements can't hold you back unless you believe they can hold you back from realizing your dream. And one of the things that happens, which are subconscious externalizations to bring forth your vision, is what we call signs and synchronicities. As I was building my IT business and any goal or desire that I see brought forth, I rely on the signs and synchronicities. Now, when I say I rely, it's not like I'm waiting for them. They happen to show up. I understand what they mean. They may not mean anything to anyone else. Sometimes I talk about them, sometimes I don't. But these signs and synchronicities are symbolic interpretations for me, and they guide me towards the destination. Because I built a relationship with my subconscious realm, the five sensory data then presented through signs and synchronicities further affirms. I'll see it as a reaffirmation. I'll look at the sign and synchronicity and I'll say, oh, this makes sense. Now I know what to do. Oh, okay, this totally makes sense to me. And that is an affirmation right there, which further impresses my subconscious and then re-externalizes again, and again, until you start to notice that you're able to see signs and synchronicities in many different areas where others can't see it. Now, again, all of this is based on results. So I'm not doing this just to experience signs and synchronicities. So I'm looking at this from the perspective of creating a vision and navigating the journey via working with the subconscious realm over to the fulfillment of that particular experience. As Neville puts it, knowing that it is already done. All of this is, again, as I'm communicating about this, interpretation, subconscious interpretation that I use as conscious facilitators. Now, when I say conscious facilitators, what I'm really referring to is that sometimes the conscious mind tends to want to control things and do things a certain way. If I've referenced my experiences and created certain subconscious principles and work with them, then I allow my conscious mind to be at ease so I can allow my subconscious mind to express, and I don't force things. The same is to be said if you read a book like Principles by Ray Dalio. He's got all these principles that he's laid out, and he lives by these principles. Now, as a result of creating your own principles and living by them, these are also can be interpreted as symbolic interpretations of how you experience reality to live the life that you want or bring forth the goals in a way that you want to bring it forth. Number 7, there isn't a need to rush or settle with 5 sensory data unless you now decide you want to. Once you imagine what you desire to create, I don't settle. Now I realize that whatever I can imagine, I can see brought forth, because whatever I imagine is from my heart desire. It's meant for me. And these heart desires, I really desire it. So it's easier for me to imagine it, to affirm it, and realize that it is done, to actually feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled that it is done. Now, everything, as a result of it, the world within and the world without, rearranges my way of looking at reality, my identity, my values and beliefs, rearranges. I allow it to rearrange, to externalize as the outer world reflection of that rearrangement. One of the things that I learned from Think and Grow Rich that I found to be really helpful, you've probably heard me mention this many times, is the idea of indecision. So I trust my subconscious realm. I trust my intuition, my inner voice. And as a result, I listen to it. And on the journey, as a result of removing disempowering programming, I found that it was easier to trust my inner voice and honor it and listen to it. And the inner voice is distinct from mental chatter. I'm not talking about mental chatter, which is usually a result of disempowering programming that is running in loop mental chatter in the mind. I'm talking about the true inner voice that sees the spirit of harmony and relates everything to a symbolic interpretation in relation to your definite chief aim of what you desire to bring forth. Now, anytime I have any kind of indecision, what I find is I'm not listening to my intuition. And all I have to do is just change my state of mind. Go for a walk, do a meditation, or just simply ask myself what I mentioned earlier. What's the next thing I need to do? And I'm just going to do that thing. So if anything shows up that's indecision based, let's say I have to make a business decision for one of the projects that I'm working on, and I'm not firm on a particular decision that needs to be made, I then realize it's not time to make the decision. I just say, what's the next thing I need to do? And I do that thing. And I could end up making a decision on that other project by the end of the day, a week from now, a month from now. It's totally fine, because none of that is going to hold me back from the fulfillment and the realization of what I desire to create. I don't believe it. And as you believe, so it shall be done unto you. So Napoleon Hill says, indecision is the seedling of fear. So if we experience this identification with fear, then we start to become internally mobilized and we start to feel stuck and stagnation and so forth. So we want to allow ourselves to interpret the symbolic representation of the information as contributing before it hits a level of fear, which can be revealed through any kind of experiences where you're having indecision. So as soon as you have indecision, release from it. He says, remember this as you read. Indecision crystallizes into doubt, and the two blend and become fear. So as mentioned earlier, doubt can externalize into a people, environment, circumstance, or information. And then because we see it on the screen of space, we can become very reactive to it. Fear, doubt, and indecision can cause us to stay where we are if we let it, as a result of the identification with it, which is essentially having rigidity of mind. My goal is always to maintain flow and fluidity of mind, a nice harmonious relationship between the conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. The superconscious is the infinite realm where my desires come from, and all the ways that I don't know are going to be brought forth. The subconscious is the bridge between the conscious and the superconscious. And the subconscious has my identity. I can change myself, or it will change via the superconscious, whatever way I'll figure it out on the journey. If I receive a hunch or inspiration within to change the programming via subconscious mind audio, affirmations, revision, or environment, then I'll take the action and do it. I will receive that information from within. The conscious mind is guarding the subconscious and consciously choosing and saying, based on this desire, here's the imaginal act, or here's the imaginal scene, or here's the affirmation that I want to see brought forth, which is now working in harmony between the conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. So in order to make this entire discussion one where it's affirmative and contributing as well as supporting, realize this one important point that helped me understand these important 7 aspects that I received via my subconscious inner voice conversations. Feeding the garden of your mind with supporting and affirmative information will exclude certain externalizations on the screen of space that appear to bind you to inner programming within consciousness. So all we got to do is keep the garden of the mind. Keeping the garden of the mind means our inner conversations, what we say when we talk to ourselves, how we interpret people, environment, circumstance, information, how well we reinterpret and reaffirm it in an accurate way, whatever information is presented through 5 sensory data, which is facilitating certain habitual thinking and visual imagery, which is then subconsciously being imagined to be a certain way. We want to be more conscious. We want to bring more conscious awareness into the subconscious realm. And this will happen automatically once you make a simple commitment that says, I'm going to really be aware of the kind of information that I'm consuming. And I'm really going to choose consciously more so each day to consume the information that is in harmony and related to my vision. I know my vision is already done. The entire outer world and the inner world is externalizing it to be so. And through the process, behaviors, capabilities, environments, and certain information will show up, and I'll understand it. It will make more and more sense each day, and I will value the journey and the destination. If you want to copy this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.